Nikon and Red reached a joint motion to have their case dismissed without prejudice. So what exactly does this mean? Did Red win? Did Nikon win? Or did they reach some sort of settlement? And most importantly, what does this mean for us? What does it mean for the use of compressed raw codecs in future cameras? Well, I've got the details coming up after this short break. But first, please do me a favor. Follow me on Twitter, but most importantly, please subscribe to this channel. It doesn't cost you anything, means an awful lot to me, but most importantly, it really does help this channel grow. On April the 26th, 2023, Red.com and Nikon Corporation filed for a joint motion to dismiss without prejudice as to all claims, counterclaims, causes of action, defenses, and parties, with each party bearing their own attorney's fees and court costs. I'm no legal eagle, and like you, I kind of asked myself, well, what does this mean? What is the outcome of this? Because from the first news of this, I really didn't see anything. I couldn't quite understand at first if Nikon won, or if Red won, or if they reached some sort of settlement. But one thing is clear, the court case is over. However, if we look at the terms of the settlement, let's first address the joint motion to dismiss without prejudice as to all claims, counterclaims, causes of action, defenses and parties, with each party bearing their own attorney's fees and court costs. A joint motion means that these two parties came together outside of court to reach some sort of agreement to have the case dismissed, and without prejudice means that for whatever reason, if either party decided they wanted to revisit the same court case on the same grounds, well, they could do so later without any sort of penalty. There's nothing stopping them. Whereas with prejudice means the case can never come before court again. So why would Red or Nikon agree to this? Why file a joint motion to dismiss without prejudice? Well, simply put, one never really knows what's going to happen when you enter court. You might have a very good case, you might have very good evidence, excellent witnesses, but things always seem to change once people end up on the stand, once you present evidence. But the question I have is, who had the better hand? Nikon did have a good case. The original patent was filed with a fundamental error in procedure that should have nullified the patent, suggesting that Red's patents shouldn't be enforceable. Specifically, Nikon is arguing that because Red had shown off and taken pre-orders for cameras using the compressed raw technology before applying for one of its key patents, it's claiming Nikon infringed upon. Red's claim to the technology is not valid, since patents must be applied before information is made to the public. And while Red suggests in a lawsuit that this patent was based on earlier patent applications, Nikon further argues that several of the key patent claims weren't specifically mentioned in previous applications submitted before Red made its camera and its compressed raw technology publicly available. It's not really looking good for Red, is it? When it comes to following law, common law in the United States, Canada, England, Australia, New Zealand, and all those other countries that follow law, it's all about the law. It's all about following procedure and precedent. And in this case, Red definitely didn't follow the, procedure. And that poses a big problem for them, because while Red is trying to enforce its patent, Nikon is saying, we're not going to argue about us not following your patent. What we're going to argue is that you didn't follow procedure and your patent is nullified. So again, it goes back to that joint motion. Why did they agree together to file a joint motion to have the case dismissed without prejudice, without anyone getting anything and each having to pay their own respective legal fees? Well, simply put, as Red, like I said, didn't feel like they were in a good situation. They had to ask themselves, what is the chances of us winning this court case? And it probably wasn't very good. And so what they could choose to do is fight it out and risk losing, or come to an agreement to file a joint motion with Nikon to say, look, let's dismiss this thing without prejudice. No one pays anything, no worries. We'll just keep doing business as normal. What is the benefit to that? Well, you see, Red's patents get to live for another day, and they still stand, whereas if they fought and lost, those patents are gone forever, and they can't use them in any sort of contract negotiations, any sort of mergers or acquisitions or whatnot. You see, it becomes a stumbling block. It is no longer an asset for them, whereas by agreeing to this joint motion, those patents still have value to them. They're still assets, and because we don't know if there was any sort of settlement agreement or any sort of agreement in principle or in part, neither does the competition know anything about the settlement or lack thereof. So they still have value. They still are a threat to others. So what I'm really curious to see now is, will the Nikon Z8 have the same compressed RAW codec? Or will Canon with the R5 Mark II have it, or the R1? Or what about Panasonic with the refresh of the S1, or more specifically, the S1H? And you see, I think these companies are recognizing that there's blood in the water and that the sharks are circling, and I think the days of these patents for RED, for compressed raw codecs, I don't think they're going to be surviving very much longer. You see, the patent to begin with was too broad, and if those error in procedure had been caught, well, at the very worst, the patent would have been deemed, well, null and void, or at the very least, they would have been narrowed down somewhat and not being as broad. And it's really one of those patents that's kind of handicapping the industry. Now, I can't remember what year those patents were granted, but I believe we have a 20-year life on those types of patents. Now, certain types of other trademarks and patents, they can go for a whole lot longer, but in this case, I think it's 20 years, but I still think we've got a long time left. But either way, I think RED is using this as an opportunity to see what kind of value it can still get out of these patents before the whole jig's up. But if you want to stay up to date on the latest news and rumors regarding this case, the Nikon Z8, or any other major camera news and rumor, well then go ahead and subscribe, but make sure you choose all notifications. And by choosing all notifications, as soon as I publish a new video like this one here, well, you'll get notified, so that way you can stay up to date on the latest camera news and rumors. And if you're interested in purchasing the Nikon Z8, we do have an announcement on May the 10th at, May the 10th at 8 a.m. in the morning, and I'm going to be doing a live stream with special guests starting 1 hour beforehand. And if you're interested in pre-ordering the camera, use these links here. They're what I call smart links. They won't take you to the Nikon Z8. You can't pre-order it today, but as soon as the announcement is made there, and as soon as it's available for pre-order on B&H and Adorama, these links will be valid. So I know many of you are looking forward to this camera. I certainly am myself. I'm really curious to know if the Nikon Z8 is going to have the same Apple ProRes RAW, uncompressed, or Nikon RAW, what sort of video codecs the Nikon Z8 is going to have. But that's it for now. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you again soon.